What if God is not testing you? What if your pain isn't a pop quiz for your worth, your faith, or your obedience? What if the hardest seasons of your life were never about proving yourself at all? Most of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that suffering must have a reason. That if something is hard, God must be watching closely, evaluating us, seeing whether we pass or fail. We learn to interpret struggle as scrutiny, delay as discipline, loss as punishment. And over time, that belief quietly reshapes the way we relate to God, to ourselves, and to life. But when you look closely at Jesus' teachings, especially beneath the surface, something very different begins to emerge. Jesus did not move through the world as someone administering tests. He moved through the world restoring people who already believed they had failed. He didn't say, "Endure this so God will approve of you." He said, "Fear not." He said, "You are already forgiven." He said, "The kingdom is within you." He said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." That doesn't sound like a God who is constantly measuring performance. It sounds like a God who is trying to wake people up from the belief that they were ever on trial to begin with. Much of what we call spiritual struggle is actually internal conflict created by fear-based interpretations. When something goes wrong, the mind immediately searches for meaning, and if the only framework we've been given is punishment and reward, we will assume we did something wrong. But Jesus consistently disrupted that thinking. When people asked him who sinned to cause suffering, he refused the premise. When people assumed illness was a moral failure, he corrected them. When people believed they had to earn God's favor, he moved toward them freely, without conditions. He didn't heal people after they passed a test. He healed them first. This matters because many people today are exhausted not just by their circumstances, but by what they believe those circumstances say about them. You're not just tired. You're tired of interpreting your life as evidence against yourself. If God were testing you, the test would require fear, uncertainty, and the constant possibility of failure. But fear is never the language Jesus used to describe God's voice. Fear is what he told people to release. In mystical Christianity and the Lost Gospels, fear is often described not as a lesson, but as a veil, a distortion, a misunderstanding of reality, something that clouds perception and makes love harder to recognize. In the Gospel of Mary, the soul is not judged for struggling. It is gently guided past fear, step by step, as if fear itself is the thing that needs healing, not the person experiencing it. This reframes everything. If God is not testing you, then what is happening when life feels hard? Growth does not require judgment. Healing does not require punishment. Awakening does not require suffering. What it does require is contrast. Jesus taught in paradox because paradox wakes people up. When something stops working, it reveals what was never aligned. When something falls away, it creates space for truth. When the familiar dissolves, it exposes attachment, not failure. This is not a test. It is an unveiling. Think about how many of your struggles come from trying to control outcomes, timelines, or people. Control is often rooted in fear of getting it wrong. But if there is no test, there is nothing to get wrong. There is only alignment or misalignment. Jesus didn't say, "Be careful or God will punish you." He said, "Abide in love." And love does not test. Love invites. Much of the anxiety people experience in spiritual life comes from believing they are being watched with disappointment instead of held with understanding. But the God Jesus points to is not waiting for you to prove yourself. God is waiting for you to stop trying to. In A Course in Miracles, suffering is described as a misunderstanding that corrects itself when fear is undone. Not when behavior is perfected, not when enough effort is exerted, but when perception shifts. Jesus didn't come to improve behavior. He came to restore identity. That's why he spoke so often about sight, blindness, awakening, and remembrance. If God were testing you, there would be winners and losers. But Jesus consistently erased those categories. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. The lost are already found. The prodigal is welcomed home without explanation, no test, no interrogation, no penalty, just return. What if the season you're in is not about endurance, but about release? What if the pressure you feel is not divine expectation, but internal resistance to letting go of an old way of seeing yourself? So many people are stuck in suffering not because God is testing them, but because they are still grading themselves with rules God never made. Jesus didn't say, "Carry your shame." He said, "Come to me when you are weary." He didn't say, "Prove your worth." He said, "You are the light." Light doesn't earn its brightness. It reveals by being what it is. When life strips something away, it doesn't mean you failed. It means something untrue is loosening its grip. When prayers feel unanswered, it doesn't mean you didn't pray correctly. It may mean the answer is dismantling the version of the question that came from fear. When doors close, it's not always discipline. Sometimes it's protection. Sometimes it's redirection. Sometimes it's simply timing aligning beyond what the mind can see. A test implies danger. Growth implies trust. Jesus taught trust over control again and again. Not because control is sinful, but because it's exhausting. And it keeps people trapped in fear-based identity. If God were testing you, peace would be impossible. But peace is exactly what Jesus said would accompany truth. Peace is not the reward for passing a test. Peace is the evidence that fear is loosening. And that's the real work. Not proving faith, not surviving punishment, but learning how to rest without fear. So if you're in a season that feels heavy, uncertain, or uncomfortable, consider this possibility gently. What if this isn't a test? What if you're not being evaluated? What if nothing about you is on trial? What if this moment is simply inviting you to see differently? To stop interpreting pain as judgment? To stop reading delay as rejection? To stop assuming struggle means failure? What if God is not asking more of you, but less? Less self-condemnation, less fear-based meaning, less pressure to get it right, and more trust, more presence, more willingness to be held instead of measured. Jesus didn't come to teach people how to suffer better. He came to teach people how to be free. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "What am I being shown?" Because awakening is not a test you pass. It's a truth you remember, and you were never failing at it. If something in this message stirred you, if the idea that God is not testing you, not measuring you, not waiting for you to fail brought even a small sense of relief, you might feel drawn to explore these ideas more deeply. Much of this perspective echoes themes found in A Course in Miracles, a text that invites the reader to reconsider fear, judgment, and suffering through the lens of love and forgiveness. If you're curious, I've placed a link in the description so you can explore it at your own pace. There's no rush, no obligation, only an invitation. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust that your path unfolds exactly as it's meant to. And if this space has been helpful for you, you're always welcome to stay a while. Subscribe if you feel called, and know that you don't have to walk this journey alone. You're not being tested, you're being invited.